But think of it this way, obsession. This is something that nobody really talks about. But I think that a lot of people who achieve great success find one thing in life that really matters to them, and they obsess over it. And it becomes a passion, and they persist and persist, and they obsess and they obsess, and they work harder than the next guy because of their passion, and they keep trying to get better and better and better and better at it. I think that will go a long way in the real world, and that makes you a real genius. So don't think you're a genius because of your IQ. So, ustory.com. We have here 5 qualities that separate geniuses from ordinary people. We got these Bill Gates, of course, and we got Steve Jobs, we got Einstein, we got this dude over here. I don't know who that guy is. So let's see what amazing things separate them. Point 1. So we'll just take a look at their points, and then I'll just give you some reflections upon this. And, is there something there? Is there something that is really that important or not? 1 is unparalleled creativity. Geniuses don't just think outside the box, they often redefine it. Their creativity is not confined to artistic endeavor. So, of course, you got Einstein. They discovered a very strange story after Einstein died. The guy who's doing the autopsy actually robbed his brain. It's a very funny story. But eventually sent bits of his brain back, and they discovered that these things called glial cells, or Grail cells, I think Grail cells, were big, indicating that Einstein either developed big brain cells from imagining so much, or he was born with these bigger cells so he could imagine so much. So he used great creativity, obviously a lot of visualization. Perhaps Einstein did say that he taught him music, and he loved musical instruments. So maybe it was that, but definitely creativity. Bill Gates, I don't know, but definitely Steve Jobs is a visionary. He's a very interesting character. He's kind of this kind of Zen Buddhist approach to things. Apparently his house was empty apart from a couple of chairs. And he was definitely a visionary. He's definitely holding the vision. You watch his videos on the internet, you see the guy's holding a vision. So in that sense, creativity, but maybe not so much in the artistic sense, but more in the sense of somebody who's thinking outside the box. I would tend to agree with you, or with this article on that point. Number 2, intense curiosity. A relentless thirst for knowledge is a hallmark of genius. Well, okay. Their curiosity drives them to question endlessly. Their intense curiosity often results in profound understanding of complex. Yeah, I mean, curiosity is very important for a genius, but I don't know, intense curiosity. I think a lot of people are intensely curious, and are they geniuses? I think we can think about that. Number 3, exceptional concentration and focus. As their geniuses possess the ability to focus intensely on their work for extended periods. Exceptional concentration. And there's a certain truth to that, definitely. People who achieve a lot tend to concentrate very well. And going back to number 2 over there, intense curiosity, they usually are very driven. Number 4, high adaptability, learning agility, the ability to learn quickly, which is basically IQ, by the way. IQ is basically your ability to learn quickly. And adapt to new information is a standout trait of geniuses. So they learn quickly and they adapt. Now that's probably the most original one here, because there's lots of creative people, a lot of people can concentrate, but the ability to solve problems quickly and to find a new angle on things, that's definitely a genius trait. They're not only quick learners, but are also flexible in their thinking, allowing them to pivot when faced with new data or perspectives. 100% definitely in the world of business. Maybe not so much science, for example. You could spend a lot of time as a scientist getting through different things. But in business, yeah, agility, adaptability is very, very high, very important. Number 5, persistence in the face of failure. Of course, they must persist. It says here, perhaps one of the most defining characteristics of geniuses is their resilience. They view failure not as a setback, but as a stepping stone to success. This persistence, even in the face of repeated failures, allows them to push the boundaries of their respective fields. So he says here, the term genius often conjures images of exceptional intellect. It is these traits, creativity, curiosity, concentration, adaptability, persistence, that truly differentiate the genius from the ordinary person. Understanding these characteristics not only helps us recognize geniuses in others, but can also inspire us to cultivate these traits in ourselves. I think it's a good point. So everything he says here is pretty just regular stuff that people have. I think the real question here is, see, it's very confusing till you get this thing. The person is an IQ of 140, so they have a genius IQ. But there's lots of people who have an IQ of 140, 150, 160. They don't seem to be doing anything exceptionally genius-like. In general, people with high IQs tend to be more efficient at work and get more done, or more quick to understand how to progress and work. So they tend, in general, to do better, make more money, and be more successful. But if you meet people with high IQ, apart from being, they're smart and they're, maybe good conversationalists or have interesting insights. I mean, what I'm saying is in day-to-day life, if you meet somebody with an IQ of 140, they won't impress you that much. It's very rare you're going to meet somebody who's going to, wow, that person's super brain. So they just have maybe, what I would say from IQ is a little bit faster at picking up things. And that is an advantage to making money, but often they're not, they're not the Ubermensch, they're not like the amazing overperson, superhuman person. They're not like that. They're just, they tend to be more focused and so on. But you see, the thing is, there's lots of people who don't seem to have such a high IQ, and yet they do very well. So I think we can't get hung over on IQ. Now, clearly, these guys here, I don't even know who this person is over here, this fourth person. But certainly Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Einstein, they had genius IQs. They had 150, 60, 70 IQ. So definitely they needed intellect, huge intellect for a physicist. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates being billionaire businessmen. I think in general these guys have a very high IQ. But I think a lot of people who do well because of certain traits there. So if you go back to Einstein, for example, if you look at the Wikipedia page for Einstein, there's so many discoveries that this guy had. He was really a genius, the amount of things that he came up with. Let's just take a look at what exactly Einstein came up with. Let's take a look here. Einstein. If you look at the Wikipedia page, Einstein, Wikipedia page. Okay. So if you just look at Einstein, for example, let's have a look. Publications. Okay. So. So, photoelectric cell, Brownian motion, special relativity, matter-energy equivalence, theory of critical opalescence, spatial relativity, general relativity, gravitational waves, whole argument, and Entwerf theory, physical cosmology, let's look here, energy momentum, and pseudo-tensor, and these he had papers and all these scientific papers, wormholes, Einstein-Cartan theory, equations of motion, old quantum theory, photons and energy quanta, quantized atomic vibrations, Bose-Einstein statistics, wave-particle duality, zero-point energy. What else you got here? Stimulated emission, matter waves, quantum mechanics, Bohr versus so I think it's over 100 papers. The guy was a workaholic, and apparently like the ladies as well. So he actually had a pretty active social life, and he got a lot of work done. So he wasn't just a clever guy. He's a guy who worked very hard. If you look at Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, of course, very hard working. So I would kind of say, having a really high IQ might make you more inclined to be successful. But when we really label someone a genius, we can't just think of IQ, because there's people whose IQ maybe was not so high, and yet they achieve greatness. If you look at Richard Feynman, for example, just on this thing of physicists, Richard Feynman is a very famous physicist. He's very well known for quantum physics, quantum electrodynamics, superfluidity, liquid helium, particle physics, particle model. But interesting enough, he claimed that he had a very ordinary IQ. And he did actually get some help from a guy called Dyson Freeman, who's a great mathematician, because his maths wasn't that good, and he helped him a lot with the maths. So if we believe Feynman, his IQ wasn't that high. So I think if we're talking about geniuses, let's put IQ to one side. The IQ will help you, but what really makes you a genius is more than IQ. And if we look at these things, what they're saying here in this article, unparalleled creativity, intense curiosity, exceptional concentration of focus, high adaptability, learning agility, persistence in the face of failure. I think the biggest thing here that they're basically saying is your traits are defining you more than anything else. So your psychological traits are more important. In other words, how hard you're willing to go, how much you're willing to do. This is far more important than IQ. And so to really be a genius person, if you really think about it, on the day-to-day activity, from a point of view of traits. Now, there's a couple of things. Apparently, in a lot of research suggests that geniuses are fairly low on agreeableness, for example. Many geniuses are borderline on the spectrum, apparently, that a little bit on the autistic side. But think of it this way, obsession. This is something that nobody really talks about. But I think that a lot of people who achieve great success find one thing in life that really matters to them, and they obsess over it. And it becomes a passion, and they persist and persist, and they obsess and they obsess, and they work harder than the next guy because of their passion, and they keep trying to get better and better and better and better at it. I think that will go a long way in the real world, and that makes you a real genius. Don't think you're a genius because of your IQ. A lot of geniuses have a very high IQ, and it will definitely help, but a lot of people appear to be kind of geniuses. They don't have such a high IQ. If we look at this article and also think about just our own common sense, it's mainly about your ability to be a very driven individual who's willing to overcome challenges. Again, if we look at that article, picture on it there, okay, Einstein was definitely a super genius. He couldn't do what he was without this huge intellect. But really, I mean, the likes of Bill Gates, the likes of Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these people, I don't think they need a super high IQ to do what they do. It's more like they're obsessed. And I'm not recommending that you get obsessed, but I think if you want, say, genius-like results, is usually a person who focuses very much on one little area and just keeps at it and putting more and more effort. And by doing that, they become like kind of locomotive train. The locomotive train starts slowly and then gets faster and faster and faster. So that's what I would think is the biggest trait, because we could talk about this trait and that trait and 5 traits and 7 traits, and in articles you often come out traits, but the number one trait I feel for great success, for genius level ability in something, is to be totally focused on one thing. And if anything you can take away from it would be find the one thing and focus intensely at it. And over time you'll become kind of a genius in that area, whatever it is, whatever hobby it is, or whatever job it is, whatever career it is. Try, and that's the hard thing, is to try and find one thing. If you look at these guys, example in this article, the one thing all those 3 guys share is that, and many other geniuses, is at a relatively early age they become obsessed by something and they spend the rest of their life doing it. That's what I would take as the important thing. And if you want to be genius level sports person or amateur photographer or business person or scientist or whatever it is that you want to do in your life, if you want a genius level at it, you don't really need a super high IQ or have amazing traits unless you want to go become become a famous physicist, for example. But in general, what you need to do is to be totally obsessed and just go for it. And that will develop genius over time. And it comes back to the final thing, of course, is it nature versus nurture? Are you born a genius, or do you nurture into a genius, or it's a bit of both? Probably a bit of both in most things, but I'm kind of inclined to think that, unless you want something very niche, like becoming the world's greatest mathematician, world's greatest golfer or something, these people need certain attributes that the ordinary person doesn't have. Like a super sports person will have a bunch of physical, biological, genetic attributes that other people don't have. A top of the range mathematician, for example, or physicist will have a bunch of traits that the ordinary person doesn't have. But in general, to be maybe very successful at a hobby or a sport or an art or making some money or just as successful in life or becoming very good at achieving something, or you're trying to write that greatest book or research the greatest project or live life a certain higher level way or whatever, you don't need to have any amazing traits. You just need to have an amazing attitude. Just something to think about. Hope you like that. Please like and subscribe if you do, and I will talk to you next time.